Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Jews and Gentiles, saints and sinners. I'm here with none other than Rozzy Shorter. She is running for district clerk of Harris County. What's up, Rozzy? How you been?
What's shaking? I'm awesome.
I'm good to have you in and
see
you. You're looking sharp.
Thank you.
Very dapper, very debonair, very lovely today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
I'm glad to. Listen, I got your campaign and looking at your flyers, which are some great flyers, and something that I noticed on your flyers, it says you can trust experience, you can trust a new way forward. And I want to ask you, what made you feel that it was necessary to have a new way forward in Harris County?
Well, understanding that, thank you for having me on your show. I appreciate it. It is an honor. Oh, you're welcome. So first of all, understanding what's happening in Harris County with our jury pool selection process. I have actually been to jury duty 9 times in my life. And so most people haven't been to jury duty once. And you have to ask yourself the question, why is it that I keep getting chosen to go to jury duty? And I always show up, of course, but I don't call it jury duty anymore. I consider it to be jury service. Harris County has a huge problem with our jury pool selection process. In 2015, it was reset, creating the same 400,000 people cycling in that system to be called for jury duty. And what does that mean to African American people? That's an issue when you have the highest conviction rate and mass incarceration of people of color, which is Black and brown, Black and Latino people. That means who's convicting those people? So you have to ask yourself those questions when we start talking about Black Lives Matter. Who's involved in these processes? You need your protesters. You need your people that are on the front line, but you definitely need your people that are in an administrative position that's going to be able to push that cause and understand what's happening, the dynamics of that. And so I began to do my research, and I started saying, connecting the dots, saying, wait a minute, it's this, it's that. Oh, we need to go back. What position is this? Who's in that office? How do I execute in that position? And so that's why I chose this particular seat, because of the jury pool selection process.
So you feel that the district clerk is the gatekeeper
Absolutely.
of the jury selection process?
Absolutely. It is mandated by the court, by the Texas Constitution, actually, the district clerk's position. So we're responsible for it. And see, I'm already speaking the language we are, because I'm taking authority over what it is that I'm supposed to have. So I speak forwardly, move a new way forward. So that's how my conversation is. But certainly understanding that the district clerk is responsible for the jury summons process. So we send out summons to the community to get them to come. Now, what is that breakdown, and what's the demographics that we're sending those summons to? Understanding that there are 44.9% Latinos in Harris County, 19.2% African American, roughly around 34% Caucasian, and then the other makes up that 100% of the demographics. The Sixth Amendment says that jury pool selection process should come from a fair cross selection of the community. Then tell me, why is it that 85% of the juries are Caucasians?
Wow. With that being said, my daughter, when she heard that I was going to interview you today, she got so excited. She said, Daddy, let me go with you today so that I can meet Ms. Rozzy Short. I said, you're more than welcome to come. Go ahead and ask the question that you wanted to ask.
Ms. Shorter, I would like to ask you, how can you use your office to
It's okay, go ahead.
to extend access to the minorities of jury selection?
Well, actually, thank you, Rebecca. That's a good question to ask me. So first of all, we have to understand the list that we utilize in Harris County. Currently, we are only utilizing 2 lists, which is comprised of the driver's license list and the voter registration list. I propose that internally we have a legislative aid, and I'm going to have to get with them as well as with the district judges and petition Austin to ensure that we can utilize multiple sources. So that's going to ensure that we're going to change that dynamics. So right now they're doing an annual update of a list. Why not do semi-annual, or why not do get lists that are updated every month? So instead of just using those, if we could use the unemployment list. Now, not everyone on the unemployment list is uneducated, or they're just there because they're just like bombs or not doing anything with their lives or riding the system. Some people are just generally not employed. And so if you're utilizing people like that, number one, you're giving them money because it's only $6, but they're still able to get some type of income, and they're going to be a part of a judicial process, which is our civic duty, right? And so if we utilize a list like that, we know that that's updated every month. We know the unemployment list is updated every month. So you know it's a greater pool of diversity in African Americans and Latinos in that pool. See, so if we use that, that's a good one. Even if we go into utilizing, just say the veterans list. The veterans list, their benefits, they're updated monthly. So we have to utilize lists that are actually updated
Current.
more often and
Yes.
current, as opposed to something that's
Outdated.
antiquated. And so those lists, and if you think about the two lists that they're utilizing, that's where the disparity comes into place, because those two lists generally have people that are homeowners in Harris County. If African Americans and Latinos are prone to have a lot of mobility in where they're living. And so if you're utilizing a driver's license list and you don't update your driver's license and you move and you change your address,
Wow.
you're not going to get your voter's registration card in the mail, and you're not going to
That's
know
a great
where to
point.
go and vote when it's time to vote, which means systematically it cuts you out of the process. So we have to ensure that we have a multiple source list that is a direct racial representation of our community.
Is there a correlation between the mass incarceration and the jury selection process? Is
Oh,
there a
absolutely,
correlation between the
absolutely.
two
So,
that the district clerk has to be able to foresee and integrate together? Is that
well, we have to look at the equal protection clause, which we have to be careful for, because we want to ensure that we're not just racially profiling jurors, right?
right?
So understanding how the jury selection process works, there's a jury wheel, which it's not a wheel, it's an automated system. The district judges tell the district clerk how many jurors they're going to need for that month. And then the jury wheel goes in and it selects automatically, but it's based off of zip codes. So if you did a data analysis and put the pinpoints, you'll begin to see the zip codes are not picking out of the African American communities.
Wow. So that can be ensured or protected, or the equal protection clause can be integrated through his office.
Absolutely.
By you updating the list.
Absolutely.
And making the list more accurate to pick
Absolutely.
from a more cross section of society.
Correct, which is in line with the Sixth Amendment, which is how it's supposed to be. In other states, they do that. Texas does not. In New York City, they utilize 5 or 6 lists. In California, they utilize multiple source lists as well, which is why they have Texas has a high incarceration conviction rate here, mass incarceration. So you have to ask yourself the question, why is it that the Black and the brown people are being convicted such high numbers? Who's sitting on the jury? Who's there? And how did those people get there? Because voir dire is totally different than the jury's pool selection.
Okay.
So the summons come.
Well,
and
what is a voir dire? For some people, I've never heard of.
so
that.
voir
I don't know what
dire
that
is the process that the attorneys, that when you're going inside of the courtroom and you're summons in and you're sitting down in those inside of the stalls or whatever you want to call them, or in the chairs, it's contingent upon which courtroom you're in. That's when the attorneys start the process of questioning you. And they want to see who they can strike from the jury at that point.
Now, these strikes are preemptive strikes where they can strike individuals for anything that they decide.
Absolutely. And each attorney gets 10 of those.
Right.
And so most people probably don't pay attention that when they're in the jury, they'll make a shuffle. They'll start moving the jury around when there may be 45 to 60 people on a panel, and they'll move them around because, let me just say this, historically, African American people sit in the back of the jury room when they're in there. I don't know why they do that, but if you look at the statistics, it states that they do. And so what they do is, if you have a murder trial, or if you have a person that's of color, the attorney will say, let's shift. And they're shifting so that they can move the African American people up closer so that they can get them to be on that jury.
Or strike them.
Or strike them.
With preemptive strikes.
Exactly.
Now, preemptive strikes, where they strike them for basically, I believe there was a case that was called Bastrop versus Kentucky.
Correct.
Where this case went before the Supreme Court because there was attorneys would preemptively strike African Americans from the jury selection pool based upon their race.
Correct.
So it's very important. So that's a very noble goal and noble office that you're pursuing, and so that we can have more representation
Absolutely.
in the jury selection process is very important.
And it aligns itself with the Sixth Amendment, which is important. I think what's important to also understand is that we're just 148 years away from the 15th Amendment, which gave us the right to vote. As a juror, you couldn't even be a juror in the beginning of history time of America unless you were a white man with property. Even after we had the right to vote as African American people, you still couldn't sit on the jury.
Wow.
And you have to understand that.
It's very important
Yes.
that we are represented in the jury, and to also ensure the promise of the Sixth Amendment, as far as being represented by a juror of peers, being able to sit before a juror of peers.
Yes.
So how do you foresee that a new way in that regard, where jurors are being represented via the Sixth Amendment?
Well, in Harris County, we've not petitioned the courts, and we have not gone to Austin and say, hey, this is a problem. With our current leadership, they would not do that. They've not done it.
So
in
you
the past.
feel that is a constitutional issue?
Oh, absolutely.
For African Americans not to be represented by a jury of their peers, or how is peer defined? I guess they would have to go through some type of process to try and find out what is a peer, how that is constituted within the rules.
If you're African American, if you're a male, if you're in a certain age category, then if the defendant is African American, he's a male, he's within that age bracket, then he has a jury of his peers. If he has 85% of that jury as being Caucasian, elderly, and females, that's not a jury of his peers.
Is that a constitutional thing?
Yes, it directly conflicts with the Sixth Amendment.
So as the gatekeeper of Harris County, as the district county clerk,
it is my responsibility and my constitutional authority to ensure that we represent the Sixth Amendment.
That's great.
And that's about changing that list. And most people don't know that. And making an awareness campaign to get people to come to jury service.
Right. Well, how much are jurors paid on the day?
Unfortunately, it's not enough. In Harris County, it's $6.
It's $6?
Yes.
Well, the information I read was $40.
That's on grand juries. $40 a day.
I was mistaken about that.
Yes.
Well, I'm so glad that you are in this race, and I'm personally going to make sure that I get to the ballots and endorse and vote for Rozzy Shorter. That's what my personal goal is. So hopefully y'all follow me on that and follow her to the polls and keep up with what she's got going. How can they find out more information about your campaign?
You can go to www.rosalindshorter.com. It's a multiplicity of knowledge out there about me. Go to my website because I paid a lot of money for it. That's what I tell people. Yes. And so, no, but more so to really find out what my candidacy represents. I think it's vitally important that people are educated voters, that they know who they're voting for when they go to the polls. Because statistics state that 80% of the people that show up at the poll are totally oblivious to who the candidates are.
Well, you certainly have informed me a lot about the district clerk process, because I didn't know anything about the district clerk as being the gatekeeper of the jury selection process.
Correct.
Until I met you on yesterday.
Yes.
So when I met you, I decided, she's running for this particular office. Let me check into it and see what's the functionality of the district clerk and what's the roles and responsibilities of the district clerk. I'm aware that it's a document and as well as administrative process.
Correct.
But when it came down to the jury selection, that is a very powerful office.
Yes.
And it's very vital to, I believe, all people within Harris County.
Absolutely.
That would be equally and fairly represented in the jury.
Yes. And so I want to be clear that we understand it's the jury pool selection process,
right.
Not the jury selection process, because those are two different things that occur, and people don't understand that.
It's like that.
It's like this. It's really simple. Being at the table, so you can't eat from the table if you're not in a room to sit down at the table.
Right now, so you got to show up.
You have to be invited to the party. You have to be invited to the dinner table in order to get it, in order to eat from the table, you have to be in the room to even be invited to sit down at the dinner table.
Right.
And so my responsibility is to ensure that you are invited into the room.
That's important.
Yes.
That's vitally important.
Yes. And so if we have 45 African American and Latinos, which actually represents a greater demographics with what we need for representation, then you can stack the numbers to ensure that you're going to have, out of 12 jurors, you may have 5 African Americans, or you may have 7 African Americans. If you have more African Americans and Latinos and other ethnicities participating in the process, yes.
Wow.
Yes. If you have 65 jurors in the room, and only 10 of them are African Americans, look at the percentage.
It's bad.
Yes.
It's bad.
Yes. So you want to ensure that you have more of
opportunities, and like you said about that list, making sure that we're being targeted.
Absolutely.
And invited to the process.
Yes.
It's so keen and vital.
Yes.
Right.
It's important. It's a very intricate process, but understanding it, and I've done a lot of research across this country with this actual seat, because I want to ensure that I am doing my due diligence and my justice and giving back to the community, and I serve correctly in that seat.
Right, and your foresight and how it integrates with the jury selection process.
Yes.
During the Vorda process, when I guess that's when you actually putting people in paneling the jury, that's so vitally important because it's all interconnected, and I guess that's how
Correct.
you get the systemic effect of African Americans being over prosecuted and or penalized for petty crimes, and
Correct.
it's all I guess I say
This seat
interlaced.
is the key to criminal justice reform in Harris County.
Wow.
Yes.
Well said. On that note, there's nothing else to be said. Thank you for taking your time. I really want to say thank you for taking your time to come out. I really appreciate you. I consider it an honor and pleasure that
Thank
you even
you.
took the time to come out, and you look so sharp,
Thank
so
you.
suave. I thank you
Thank
for
you.
taking the time to come out.
And thank you, Rebecca, for joining us. I appreciate meeting you. Yeah.
Okay. When y'all have it, this is Church with Here Out Here Entertainment. And sitting with none other than Rozzy Shorter. She's running for district clerk right here in Harris County. And trust me, we need someone that's in that office making sure that we can get a seat to the table. Even if you don't get to the table, at least you was invited.
And also, let's just interject early voting. It's imperative that we early vote, and that's going to take place February 20th through March 2nd, with Election Day being on March 6th. So I need people to vote on the first day. I call it Rozzy Shorter Love Day, February the 20th. You know, it's the month of Valentine's. Help me make Black history. There's never been an African-American female in this seat in the history of Harris County. And so I am pushing to be the first African-American female for this seat. So help me make history during the Black History Month.
Amen.
Yes.
Amen. God bless. Peace out.